What's up, guys? D-Rock1992 here. For this next video, I'm going to talk about a comedian who I don't think in the last few videos, or any video in particular that I've done, I don't really think I've mentioned him a lot, and probably a crime, but he is one of my favorites. The guy I'm talking about is one of the best spoof comedians of all time, Mike Myers. Mike Myers, I mean, one of the best spoof comedians. Spoof meaning that he parodies pop culture references, basically. The pop culture references that we all know and love, basically. Spoof movies are parodies of those pop culture references. And probably nobody does it better than Mike Myers. Another guy who I might talk about in the future, Leslie Nielsen. If you don't know him, he was in the Airplane movie, the Naked Gun movies, and all that sort of thing. But Mike Myers is probably one of the best. He's right up there with Leslie Nielsen. And without further ado, I'm going to be talking about Mike Myers in general and his career. I have to start first with television. This is the only television in his career that I'm going to talk about because it's the most significant, obviously, by a long shot. But he started out on Saturday Night Live. He came to Saturday Night Live in 1989, and pretty darn soon, he became one of the best performers on SNL in the history of SNL. Mike Myers had a lot of memorable characters. Deidre, or something like that. He was a German guy. I can't think of the name at the moment. But, let me see here. I might be able to check it out. I may be able to actually see. I don't particularly know. But, I mean, anyway, but there was this German guy that he played that was hilarious. There's also this kid, this 6-year-old kid some age, who was on a playground and talking to another little kid, whoever was the host at the time. I think he did this one a couple of times. It was pretty funny. So this little kid in the bathtub that he did, another sketch that he did, that he was very popular for. Those are three that I can think of off the top of my head. Plus, there's another one too, but I'm going to talk about that one later. Actually, I'm going to talk about that one right now. He's one of the best. Mike Myers, first of all, one of the best Saturday Night Live performers of all time, and I need to have a show on Saturday Night Live because of how much I talk about it. I mean, I've talked about it with so many people who I have done an About series of so far. I mean, I just need a Saturday Night Live video, which will probably come up very soon. Mike Myers, the one film that put him on the map as far as movie careers go, happens to be his very first film. I'm talking about his character, Wayne Campbell, in Wayne's World. One of the most popular Saturday Night Live sketches of all time. And he did this Saturday Night Live sketch with Dana Carvey, who played Garth Algars. And basically, with Wayne's World, Wayne Campbell, Garth Algars, they have a TV show of theirs in their downstairs basement, Wayne's downstairs basement, I believe, and it's a whole thing about pop culture references. They make a lot of those. On Saturday Night Live, they made Top 10 Things We Love About Bill Clinton, was one of the sketches of Wayne's World that they did. And for sure, I mean, it was Wayne's World, very memorable. There is a friend of my dad's who loves Wayne's World. I think those are his favorite movies. You can just see they were so influential in the 1990s. I mean, if you were a 90s kid, you probably knew about Wayne's World, for sure. Um, I didn't know about Wayne's World until probably a few years ago or so when I started getting interested in movies in general. That's when I kind of heard about it. But it is it is a it's definitely pretty good. It's not my favorite. Wayne Campbell's not my favorite Mike Myers character, but he's good. I mean, I liked Wayne's World. I thought it was a pretty good movie. Moving on to 1993, Mike Myers comes out with the underrated, probably, So I Married an Axe Murderer. And if you know about Mike Myers, you know that he's noted for playing more than one character in a movie. Eddie Murphy did it. I talked about Eddie Murphy before, about a week ago or so. But he plays a guy named Charles McKenzie and Stuart McKenzie. So I Married an Axe Murderer. I haven't watched it yet. I'd like to someday, for sure. But the basic gist of it is Mike Myers is this guy who meets a woman, and then pretty soon afterwards he thinks the woman's a serial killer. So that's pretty much what the movie was about. I have not watched it. I'd love to watch it. But that was 1993. Another movie he did in 1993 was the sequel to Wayne's World 2. In this one, I know the plot is that he has to go after this girl that he loves, and actually, I think the girl was in the first movie, but Wayne's World 2, I mean, they have to set this concert up, kind of like Woodstock, and the opening act for them, the biggest act for them they have to book is Aerosmith. I do know that for positive, but Wayne's World got like an 85% or something like that on Rotten Tomatoes. Wayne's World 2 got a 60%, which is passing, definitely. Which is a passing grade if you're in school. But yeah, Wayne's World 2, definitely some good movies. They're good, definitely. I'd watch them again for sure, but they're not my favorite Mike Myers comedies. The favorites of mine are coming up actually pretty soon. But these three movies right there were during Mike Myers' tenure on Saturday Night Live. He appeared on Saturday Night Live from 1989 to 1995. And, I mean, like I said before, he is one of the best Saturday Night Live performers of all time. He's up there with the likes of Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, Bill Hader, Kristen Wiig, all those sorts of performers. But 2 years after SNL, he comes out with what I think, in my opinion, this movie is no doubt his breakout role. Wayne's World in 1992 was his breakthrough role. I mean, that really established him. Or, it really brought him into film. It really was like, this Mike Myers, he's a pretty funny guy. The first two Wayne's World movies. And then So I Married an Axe Murderer. But, in my opinion, this next movie is his breakout role. The role that made him a superstar. And I'm talking about Austin Powers. Austin Powers, he made 3 of the movies. 3 movies of Austin Powers were made. I love every single one of them. They are some of my favorite comedies of all time, are the three Austin Powers movies. In 1997, the first Austin Powers came out. Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. He plays Austin Powers and Dr. Evil. Just Austin Powers is a spoof of James Bond and all the 60s spy movies and all that sort of thing. Dr. Evil is a spoof of Ernst Stavro Blofeld. For those of you who don't know, this guy is a villain, the primary villain in the James Bond films. The primary villain in the first few that James Bond, that were James Bond films. But in the earlier James Bond films. But in this movie, Austin Powers, he has to follow Dr. Evil into 1999. Dr. Evil got cryogenically frozen. Austin Powers does the same thing. And he has to go defeat Dr. Evil from his evil plans. So, with the help of the first Austin Powers girl, who is played by Elizabeth Hurley, a very hot woman indeed. Very hot woman. With the help of her, Elizabeth Hurley plays Vanessa Kensington. So it's up to Austin Powers and Vanessa Kensington to go defeat Dr. Evil. And it's just hilarity after hilarity. The pop culture references that come out of this movie are very funny, They're very funny jokes of pop culture references, basically. Austin Powers is a very, very memorable character. I love him. I love Austin Powers. I love those movies. Austin Powers and Dr. Evil. They're just silly. They're just pop culture reference after pop culture reference. They're silly. They're stupid. They're just funny. Period. And the first one was was good. Was very good, but it's not my favorite Austin Powers film. In 1998, he comes out with an underrated, probably another underrated Austin Powers film. Wait, not Austin Powers film. My bad. Another underrated film of his in general. So I Married an Axe Murderer is probably pretty underrated compared to a lot of his other movies. But in 1998, he comes out with the movie 54. He plays a supporting role. This movie is based on Studio 54, a club in the 70s, a big New York club in the 70s. Studio 54 was famous for disco, drugs, especially cocaine, sex. That's what Studio 54 was known for. And 54 is a true story about that. Mike Myers in the movie plays Steve Rubell, who was the co-owner of Studio 54, and it tells the story about him. And there is the primary story in general. I think Ryan Philippe was the lead guy in the movie, along with Selma Hayek, early role for her. Ryan Philippe is this young guy who works at Studio 54, and Steve Rubell's character is viewed as kind of weird, pretty weird. But anyway, it's a true story about Studio 54. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. It is a good Mike Myers movie, an underrated Mike Myers movie. In 1999, he comes out with my favorite Austin Powers film, the second Austin Powers film in the series, Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. This is my favorite one, for sure. He plays Austin Powers and Dr. Evil yet again. But there's a new character that's introduced in the movie, and that would be Fat Bastard. And I have a funny Fat Bastard story that I'm going to tell you right now. So I have this friend, and when she was little, she basically, pretty simply, she watched the Austin Powers movie when she was young. She wasn't old enough to watch it, obviously, but she did. And what was pretty funny was that she went around saying, "Fat bastard, fat bastard." And, I mean, it was hilarious. For sure. Whether you like it or not, in that particular instance, that's the impact that characters like Fat Bastard have had on 90s culture, for sure, in world culture. And so anyway, the movie in general is, instead of going forward in time in this movie, like the first Austin Powers did, Austin Powers and Dr. Evil, cryogenically frozen, and then put into the 90s. That's another thing. In the first Austin Powers movie, Austin Powers lived in the 1960s, and that was a time of rebellion, sex, drugs, rock and roll, all that type of thing. In the 90s, in the first Austin Powers movie, International Man of Mystery, Mike Myers has to deal with the changes that come out of the 90s. It's not a free world anymore. It's not a world of free love and all that kind of stuff anymore. The 90s are a different decade, so Austin Powers has to adjust to that decade, in general. At the end of that Austin Powers movie, he ends up in 1999. I mean, he ends up in 1999. At the end of the movie, he stays, and with Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, they start out in 1999. Elizabeth Hurley has a small role at the beginning of the movie. She turns out to be a fembot, and Austin Powers has to finish her off, and has to finish that fembot off, and that's the end of Elizabeth Hurley's character in the Austin Powers franchise. But anyway, instead of going forward in Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, Austin Powers has to go backwards. So he has to go back to 1969, I believe it was. Dr. Evil first goes back to 1969, and he has a plan to, I think, unleash a nuclear weapon of some sort, I think was the plan. It's more of the hilarity of, you look at the more hilarious situations, the more hilarity pop culture references in these movies more than the evil plots that Dr. Evil has in general. But in this one, he goes back to 1969, and he has an evil plan, I think, with the nuclear weapon. Austin Powers has to go back to 1969 as well, and he has to get reacclimated to the 1960s again. Kind of has to. And in this one, first of all, he loses his mojo. And Dr. Evil steals his, that's what's it. Dr. Evil steals his mojo, Austin Powers' mojo, goes back to 1969 with it. And Austin Powers, without his mojo, he feels pretty inadequate sexually. And, he has to kind of get around that. And in the second movie, the second Austin Powers girl is the hottest and my most favorite of all the Austin Powers girls. Felicity Shagwell, Heather Graham. Oh, you see Felicity Shagwell in the Austin Powers 2 movie. I mean, she is just incredibly hot. It's unbelievable. I have good memories with Felicity Shackwell, that's for sure. But I'll leave it at that. But anyway, Austin Powers and Felicity Shackwell team up together, and they have to stop Dr. Evil from his evil plan, basically. And this movie, another funny one, my favorite Austin Powers movie for sure. Full of pop culture references again. You add Fat Bastard to the equation, that's pretty funny as well. It's just a very good film. Period. In 2001, he comes out with yet another famous character. I mean, with Mike Myers, if he just did Wayne Campbell and Austin Powers, he would be very famous. I mean, he would be very, very famous. But he got even more famous in 2001 with the debut of his brand new character, Shrek the Green Ogre. His name is Shrek. Just Shrek. He is a green ogre. But it is the start of the Shrek film series. And for those of you who don't know, I mean, Shrek is more family friendly, obviously. But Shrek, I mean, he is a green ogre who, I mean, it's kind of a spoof on fairy tales. Ogres, you know, they're not viewed as great fairy tale material, for sure. But in this one, it's proven that ogres are good fairy tale material if you truly believe, basically, is kind of what I get from it. But the first Shrek movie, Mike Myers is Shrek, Cameron Diaz is Princess Fiona, and I have talked about it I did a video on Cameron Diaz, so I've talked a little bit about Shrek, and I did a video on Eddie Murphy, who plays the donkey, so I have talked about that as well. John Lithgow plays in this movie as Lord Farquaad, the guy who is, who loves Princess Fiona. So Shrek and Princess Fiona, Shrek has to rescue Princess Fiona from a castle. Her parents put her there, and Shrek has to rescue her, and basically, afterwards, he figures out he loves Princess Fiona. He has to bring Princess Fiona to Lord Farquaad. And with that, I mean, he realizes that he made a mistake in letting her go. And Shrek, with the help of the donkey, a hilarious, annoying character, he has to go win Princess Fiona back. And the first Shrek movie did very well. I think it was in the 80s in percentage, in general. I think that first one was a 88%. So, I mean, Shrek really made Mike Myers even more famous. I mean, he already was very famous with Austin Powers, at Wayne's World and Austin Powers, but it's just made him even more famous. Another character. And Shrek is always going to be in a lot of people's memories forever. In 2002, he comes out with the most recent Austin Powers movie, the second sequel, the third Austin Powers movie, Austin Powers in Goldmember. So he plays Austin Powers, Dr. Evil, Fat Bastard, and then he plays a new guy, the titular Goldmember. In the Goldmember movie, Goldmember is probably my second favorite. I would have Spy Who Shagged Me, then Goldmember, and then the first Austin Powers as my last one. But with Austin Powers and Goldmember, Austin Powers and the third Powers girl, who's played by Beyonce. Who, I mean, Beyonce is a very attractive woman for sure. So she plays, and Beyonce plays Foxy Cleopatra. So Austin Powers and Foxy Cleopatra, they have to try to stop Dr. Evil and Goldmember from an evil plot of theirs. I think, I kind of forget what the evil plot is, but that's kind of secondary to the humor and the pop culture references, like I said before. And so they have to stop Dr. Evil again and Goldmember. And that's all I'm really going to say about it. But yeah, Austin Powers and Goldmember, a good third entry into the Austin Powers film series. And it is the most recent. Wayne's World 2 in 1993 was the most recent of that series as well. In 2003, he comes out with probably one of his worst movies. This is probably his first bad movie, basically. All the other ones were pretty good. I mean, I shouldn't say first bad movie. I should say first really bad movie. You know, first big failure. Big failure as a result of his first big failure. That's what I'm going to go with. He stars as the Cat in the Hat in a film adaptation of The Cat in the Hat, which was a famous book written by Dr. Seuss, famous children's book. So he plays the main guy, Cat in the Hat. Alec Baldwin, I think, plays in the movie. But needless to say, this movie was not very critically received at all. And as for me, I've watched a little bit of it. I mean, I don't think I've watched the entire thing, but some other actors in the movie: Kelly Preston, Dakota Fanning, Spencer Breslin, Sean Hayes. But I haven't watched the entire movie, I don't think. But it definitely, I don't remember it as much as other ones, but yeah, I mean, the reason I talk about this movie is because it did bad. 10% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's supposed to be, it's pretty much probably nothing like Shrek. I mean, here's what Rotten Tomatoes said about it. Filled with double entendres and potty humor, this cat falls flat. Kind of a play on words. But yeah, Rotten Tomatoes said that, and The Cat in the Hat, 10%. It probably was one of the first big failures of Mike Myers' career. In 2004, he comes out with Shrek 2. And Shrek 2 is, in this one, in the sequel, Shrek 2 is about Shrek and Princess Fiona, who are called to, they have to go visit Princess Fiona's parents. Princess Fiona's parents are played by, Julie Andrews plays the mother, and John Cleese plays the father. John Cleese, better known as Monty Python. And so in this one, Shrek has to adjust to the parents. The mother, I mean, doesn't really, she's like, why is my daughter going out with a ogre? But, why is my daughter married to an ogre? But the father, John Cleese's character, John Cleese, his character, he really does not like Shrek at first. And so Shrek has to adjust to the parents. There's this evil fairy godmother who wants to get rid of Shrek and create a happily, and just, create a happy ever after for her. I think Prince Charming is the fairy godmother's son, and he's played by Rupert Everett. And so that's Shrek 2, basically. It was as successful, if not more successful, as the first Shrek movie. In 2007, 3 years later, he comes out with Shrek the Third. In this one, you have a new cast member. Justin Timberlake plays Arthur, King Arthur. They kind of get into the King Arthur Merlin type stories with this one, with Shrek the Third. In this one, Shrek doesn't want to rule the kingdom. The mother passes away and the father passes away, so Shrek and Fiona have to rule the kingdom. Shrek doesn't want to do that, so he goes after King Arthur, who is played by Justin Timberlake, and he has to try to get him to rule the kingdom for him, basically. And it's an adventure with that. They have to defeat the Prince Charming, Rupert Everett's character. A continuation. Rupert Everett's character, Prince Charming, wants to get revenge on Shrek for for his fairy godmother's death. For the fairy godmother's death. And yeah, that's basically Shrek the Third. According to critics, it did not do as well. It I think it was in the 50 percentage for Rotten Tomatoes, but I mean, it was definitely not as much of a success as the first two. In 2008, he comes out with a bad movie, another bad movie according to critics. When I saw this one, though, I liked it. I mean, it was all right. I remember some moments from it. I'm talking about 2008's The Love Guru. Needless to say, I mean, people, I said bad things, the critics said bad things about The Cat in the Hat. They said really bad things about The Love Guru. This is one of his few failures, for sure. In the movie, Mike Myers plays a couple people, Guru Maurice Pitka / Young Pitka / Teenage Pitka / himself, which I did not know. I've watched the movie before, and I did not know he played himself. Jessica Alba is in the movie, Justin Timberlake, Vern Troyer. This is a reuniting of Mike Myers and Vern Troyer, because Vern Troyer has, even if you don't know who played him, he played Mini-Me in Austin Powers 2 and Austin Powers 3. So it's a reuniting there of those two. And so as far as reviews, 14%. So The Cat in the Hat and The Love Guru are definitely, according to critics, two of Mike Myers' worst movies. Everybody has a bad movie, and Mike Myers is no exception to that I guess, Hollywood rule that you have to have a bad movie. So in this, Mike Myers plays a love guru who has to try to, I think, get a guy's head back in the game or something like that. A side story is hockey, but in this one he has to try to, he has to try to get a guy, I think Timberlake's character or something like that. He has to kind of help him get focused on winning the Stanley Cup for hockey, because he's unfocused. This guru is supposed to kind of get him back into it. Get him back into the hockey spirit. So I don't think it's Timberlake's character, though. It's somebody else. Romani Malco, I think, is the guy. Plays a guy named Darren Roanoke. He's the guy. Justin Timberlake plays the kind of the bad guy in the movie. And the character is Jacques Lecoq Grande. So that kind of tells you right there that the character in general thinks a lot about himself. So, but yeah, the Love Guru. I mentioned that because it really did put back Mike. It really was a setback to Mike Myers in his career, a big setback. In 2009, he doesn't do very many movies after this. In 2009, he does Inglourious Bastards. He plays a supporting role in the film. Inglourious Bastards, starring Brad Pitt. This is a movie about some Jewish people that try to basically defeat the Nazis and kill Adolf Hitler. And Mike Myers plays a small role in the film. And so that one's that. In 2010, the last big movie he's in, 2010, was the last Shrek movie, Shrek Forever After. And in this one, Shrek is not very content with his life in general. He thinks his life is very boring, and he wants to go back to a better life, basically, the better life he had back in the day. So he has a deal with Rumpelstiltskin. He does a deal with the evil Rumpelstiltskin. And basically he gets that life back. But wait, his life is in the hands of Rumpelstiltskin. He makes a bad deal. So it's up to Shrek to defeat Rumpelstiltskin and get his old life, his boring life back, basically. Shrek Forever After, I think, did the worst of all the movies. I think this was probably a sign that all the Shrek movies made money. Critically, the first two were very good. The last three were rotten. The last two, were rotten. But Shrek Forever After, it is the last Shrek movie. I liked it. I liked all four of them for sure. My favorite one probably was Shrek the Third. I really did like that one. In my personal opinion. But yeah, that's... after Shrek Forever After in 2010, he really hasn't done very much. At all. The Love Guru... you can't deny it. The Love Guru really set him back as an actor. And, in 2013, he comes out with Supermensch, The Legend of Shep Gordon. It's a documentary, which he is the director of, and he stars as himself in. So it's really one of his first directorial outings in general. But you can say you can say this. The Love Guru, yeah, no doubt about it. It set him back. And he's disappeared from the spotlight because of it. He really has. That Supermensch documentary kind of brought him back in a little bit. But yeah, after The Love Guru, he pretty much disappeared. After Shrek Forever After, he pretty much disappeared. Especially, though, after The Love Guru. He disappeared. And, here is to hoping. I really hope that he can do... I would love to see Austin Powers 4. There's been rumors on that for years, but there's nothing definitive that's come out about it yet. But regardless, I would love to see Austin Powers 4. Would love to see it. I am looking forward to it tremendously. But, the last one was 2002 with Austin Powers and Goldmember. In fact is, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I hope so. Uh, and then here's to also hoping that he comes out with Wayne's World 3. I don't think probably been rumors about it, definitely. How could there not be? It's such a popular series. Uh, Shrek is done, though. Shrek is all done. But you hope that he comes out with Austin Powers 4 or Wayne's World 3. I definitely hope so. I think, and I saw an interview. I didn't see an interview. I read an interview that with Mike Myers that one time that said that he has a lot of characters in his mind that he's created, but I don't think he's quite ready for them to be on the screen yet, or they're just not a fit on the screen. So, being the creator he is, definitely, yeah, in the near future, being the creator he is in the near future, yeah, you hope that there's another new Austin Powers movie. There could be a new Austin Powers. I love Austin Powers so much. I mean a new movie in general with a new character. You could have that. Or, like I said, you could have Austin Powers 4 or Wayne's World 3. I hope one of those happens. He's a great comedian. I would love to see him back. And that's it for the review. That's it for the about video. Another long one, but hope you guys watch it. D-Rock 1992 out.